everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle. This is, of course, the wrestling podcast here on YouTube, and I've always actually had a secondary place that I've always been posting. I just completely forgot about doing the episodes last time. I was filming a bunch of episodes at once, and I failed to mention that I'm over there as well. But we're also on Daily Motion. We are working on a couple other things to potentially add some other areas for that as well, but for the time being it's going to be YouTube and Daily Motion. Probably after a few other things go down, we might be working on a little bit more of other ways of trying to add more areas to this to the potential of this podcast. But this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle is going to focus on NXT TakeOver Chicago, and wow. This is what I remember NXT takeovers being. This is how I remember them. That all the matches, for the most part, were very good. Maybe a little bit awkward in certain areas, but were very good for the most part throughout the entire night, and just overall, just fun to watch. I won't say that the last couple of NXT takeovers have been disappointing in some ways. They just hadn't been to that level that we have been used to with the other NXT takeovers at the time. Because for the aspect of it, I have yet to see an NXT takeover disappoint me. I would say some of them were a little bit weaker than others, but I've yet to actually watch a show and watch one of these NXT takeovers like, that was kind of disappointing. And you didn't get that. So you didn't get that here, obviously, especially with the aspect of that Tyler Bate and Pete Dunn match, which I'll talk about here in a few moments. That was a great match, absolutely amazing match, and we'll talk about that in a few moments after we get done. After I'm done talking about the Eric Young Roderick Strong match, which I thought was also a very good match, good opener to the show. Roderick Strong, he did something that not too many other people do when they go up against Sanity right off the bat. He takes the fight to him right off the bat. He as his music's playing, he runs out and takes out both Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf on the outside to leave it be him and Eric Young for at least a little while. Also, and like I said, it's just good storytelling throughout the entire match. Like Roderick Strong trying to do everything possible to stay one step ahead of Sanity, and for the most part wasn't able to necessarily do so, but you also had little spots here and there where Roderick Strong fully takes over and actually either gets rid of both Killian Dane or Alexander Wolf again throughout the match, leading up to the finish of the match, which had Eric Young trying to go up to the top turnbuckle, and Roderick Strong knocks him off and making him land on both Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, taking them out for the rest of the match in that sense. You also had a couple pretty wicked spots in this match. One in particular was that wheelbarrow neckbreaker on the outside. I'm not a big fan of that being Eric Young's finisher at this point, because it has a lot of setup going into it, but it ends out looking good, but there's just a lot of setup in that particular move. So I'm not a big fan of the move, but it still looks good in the end. It was a good looking spot outside the ring for that one. Roderick Strong goes over with a what was it? Oh yeah, because he's been bringing in more of the backbreakers now that we have been kind of. Like, if you had watched him in the Indies side of everything, or if you watched him in Ring of Honor at all, that's what he was known for. And they do bring that up inside of his matches as well, that he's the Messiah of the backbreaker. So you did see multiple backbreakers in this one, finishing off with the suplex. He got him up for a suplex, but did the flip into the backbreaker or a pseudo. Or what would have been a lung blower if he would have landed the other way, but landed into the backbreaker for the finish of the match. I thought this was a really strong opener. good way of going. Roderick Strong definitely looks like they're going to be bringing him into a potential of a main event area at some point in time, because with those video packages we've seen recently, and the fact that he goes over clean on Sanity in this match as well, just a very, very good way of going. In the terms of building up Roderick Strong, I feel, and just the way the story was going, it kind of was about time for Eric Young to kind of eat the pin at a NXT Takeover, and that's what they end up doing here. So just really strong opener, good storytelling throughout the match of Roderick Strong having to overcome Sanity throughout the entire match itself, and eventually doing so in the end. So very good opener. Up next. Sorry, I'll clear my throat a little bit. Up next, though, was Pete Dunn versus Tyler Bate for the United Kingdom Championship. Oh boy. First of all, they do, just like with the UK special on Friday, they do have the commentary team be JR and Nigel McGuinness. I like that. It keeps with the consistency of for the UK side of everything, that you have JR calling those particular matches along with Nigel McGuinness. Both of them worked really well together in this one. Nigel McGuinness was kind of doing most of the heavy lifting in the terms of the commentary, but I felt like both of them gelled really well. And man, what a match they had to call! What a match they had to call there, because Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate went out into that arena and literally tore the house down throughout the entire match. The match started off like what we have typically been seeing in a lot of the UK matches that we've seen on NXT. I haven't watched the UK special yet. I wanted to see how that one ends up going down as well at some point. I don't know when I'll be able to see that, but they started off kind of the way that we've been seeing on the NXT side, where there's a lot of technical wrestling. A lot of the matches that we've been seeing have been very, very good technical wrestling matches. This time they took that technical wrestling and they kind of told the stories like, we're going to technical wrestling, now we're kind of going to striking and just like moves that potentially looked like they really, really hurt, like the flipping suplex on the ring apron that Pete Dunne gave Tyler Bate. It just looked like that was not fun to take. It could not have been fun to take, and most of these moves in general could not have been fun to take for these guys, but they went out there and put on a show and showed everything they could do in this match. And a lot of people are saying a potential match of the year candidate. I might have to agree with them. On this one. I know there's a lot of times where they say match of the year candidate, and I was like, I don't really know. I really don't think so. This time, I think I kind of agree with them on this particular match. That it could be potentially a match of the year candidate. You just had lots of different countering to everything that they were going for. You had like good sequences that they were selling a lot of different moves, but then you had all these sequences inside of there where it's like strike for strike for strike for strike between the two of them. And again, they built it up that each guy was trying to go for their finisher and wasn't necessarily hitting it at any given time, to the point that is like, again, it finishes with the first finisher. Like, what's the move that's supposed to finish the match for these guys? And that was how it ended up going. I'll talk about that in there as well. I'll talk about that at the end as well, a little bit here in a couple moments. Because also, Tyler Bate, I was shocked to see this move in any way, shape, or form. Even with the factor that AJ Styles is in the company now, one thing that you have not seen him use is that spiral tap move. It's like a corkscrewing almost 450, or not 450, but a corkscrew senton of some kind that he had always used back in his TNA days. But Tyler Bate busted out that move here, and it looked absolutely freaking amazing when he did it. Something we haven't seen AJ use yet. I don't think he's going to use that move in WWE. Probably mainly because of his age or anything in that sense. But you know what? Enough of AJ Styles on that one, because this match just it rocked the house. The end came where Tyler Bate tried to do he had already done a dive. He had already done a dive out to the ring to hit Pete Dunne. He was trying a second one. It gets countered with one of Pete Dunne's hard hitting elbows, and Pete Dunne gets him immediately gets him in the ring and hits the bitter end to get the victory and win the United Kingdom Championship. Great match. I can't say anything more about this match other than it was absolutely amazing. It was a lot of fun from beginning to end, in the sense of it, and you could tell from the crowd as well. They were really into this match in every way, shape, or form. So, up next is the triple threat match for the women's title, which is Asuka versus Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott. I thought this was a very good match as well. The ending was a little bit awkward, where you had the ending of the match itself came off a little bit awkward, but overall the entire match came off really well. It also just continually showed a little bit more vulnerability to Asuka in her matches now that she's kind of getting in a little bit more over her head in the terms of how she gets into these matches and what ends up happening there, because you kind of thought at times like, oh, Asuka's completely out of it, maybe they actually are going to have her lose the title here, with the aspect of probably feeling that storyline wise it's not time for her to lose that title. But overall, the match itself I thought was very good. The ending came when Ruby Riott looked like she was going to pin Nikki Cross, but Asuka was running in for a knee on Ruby Riott, where she gets up like at the last possible second and gets hit with that particular knee to break up the pinfall, and then Asuka kind of pins both of them. It's kind of the only real down point of this match, is just the ending came a little bit awkwardly between all three of them, and that was probably the only real down point of it. But overall, the match as a whole, crowd was really into it throughout the entire time, and it just came off as a really good match overall in that one. I like the aspects of before the match even beginning, you had Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross kind of doing, because they've been like kind of feuding with each other throughout this entire time, and they get in that face-to-face, head-to-head moment between the two of them, and then Asuka's music hits, and both of them just kind of look like, oh shit. Type moment, one of those type moments for that one. I like the little subtleties that they had in each of the in this match, and I thought it came off as a really good match, just with a little bit of a weird ending. Up next was Bobby Roode versus Hideo Itami, and again, I can't say really anything bad about. I can't say anything really too bad about these matches. They were all very good to great matches throughout the entire night. Bobby Roode and Hideo Itami, they definitely put on a great match. I'm not gonna lie here. I like this match. It was really enjoyable. Them working over the body parts, and even better, they were working over body parts. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it was just a fluke that, and like the Shinsuke Nakamura Bobby Roode one was kind of a fluke that the knee was kind of a focal point in the terms of the story. In this match, it was the main focus for both guys. They were going after a body part that would pertain to the finisher that they were going to use throughout the match. Bobby Roode's glorious DDT, and then of course the GTS with Hideo Itami. So Bobby Roode was working over the knee throughout the match, but Hideo Itami was also working over the shoulder and the collarbone area on Bobby Roode to try to prevent him from getting the glorious DDT in the end of the match, at the end of the match as well. So you had that story element of both these guys kind of working over both these body parts to prevent the finishers from happening. Obviously, the finishers do end up happening. You do have a GTS get hit on Bobby Roode, but he rolls outside the ring at that point. And you do have Hideo Itami kick out of one of the glorious DDTs as well. So it just came off as really well done, good storytelling. It's like we've got to, like, each guy really wants to prevent that finisher from happening, and they were trying to do everything possible to do so inside of this match. And I just thought it was a good way of going about everything in the match itself, inside the match itself. The end came with Bobby Roode hitting 2 of his glorious DDTs and still selling the fact that he was in pain throughout that entire time as well. So it made it feel like it took a lot for him to just try to get both of those off to pick up the win and beat Hideo Itami. I don't know what this necessarily means for Hideo Itami, whether or not he's going to be sticking down in NXT or if he's going to be going to the main roster at this point, but overall, really good match here. I thought this was really good. So this leads us to the main event of the night. And I was initially weirded out that they were putting this as the main event, with the Authors of Pain going up against DIY. But what they did with this, I'm not going to lie, it deserved that main event spot. The Authors of Pain and DIY in a ladder match. This was an absolutely fantastic ladder match. One of the better ones I've seen in a while. Just on the aspect, again, of the storytelling that they do in the match itself. It's like most ladder matches, when you think about it, the hard-hitting spots are just spots. They're just doing them for the sake of doing them. But each spot here kind of told the story of what they needed to do inside of this match, and you had just some crazy bits that they did in there. The one spot that, in particular, on the outside of the ring, where you have both ladders on each side, you have the one ladder in the middle. You eventually have Gargano and Ciampa get the Authors of Pain on both of those ladders when it looked like they were going to tease being powerbombed that the Authors of Pain were going to powerbomb both Gargano and Ciampa through those ladders. They take control and then climb the big ladder. And I like how they look at both the Authors of Pain. They look at the ladder. It's like, and they just go right up, and they do splashes off of the ladder, which looked like they took some nasty spills, both Ciampa and Gargano on that side as well. Took a couple nasty spills on the outside of the ring, and it looked really good. But also, the other spot that I have to talk about was the one inside the ring, kind of towards the end of the match, where you have both the Authors of Pain. They only have Tommaso Ciampa in the ring, and it looks like they were going to take the ladder and both like whack him in the face with it. But Johnny Gargano comes in the ring, pushes Tommaso Ciampa out of the way, but he recognizes that he's kind of in that bad spot, in that spot where the Authors of Pain were. And then they were just, because they had started the swing and then had stopped when they saw that, and then they just continue it when they see Gargano. It looked like he should have been done at that point. I mean, of course, he doesn't end up being done at that time, but geez, that spot looks so nasty. And when they smashed the ladder like right into his face, I actually had to turn away a bit on that one. It was like one of those moments like, okay, you should be done type bits. And I guess that could be like the one downside of that one is that Gargano after that spot should have been done. But he wasn't. I like also, and then right after that they had a spot where Ciampa German suplexes one of them through a ladder off the top of the other ladder as well to try to get a little bit of revenge for what had just happened to his buddy. And we'll talk about that one again in a little bit. Which does eventually lead to looking like they were going to get the tag team titles back on Gargano and Ciampa because they had done their stereo kick and knee to the other Authors of Pain member with a ladder around his neck. He also had a good spot in there where they really teased that as well, like mid-match, where you had both members, you had Gargano and one of the Authors of Pain on one ladder away from the center of the ring, but you had Ciampa and the other Authors of Pain member on the ladder in the center, and they were both punching. The Authors of Pain member knocks off Ciampa, but he bounces off the ropes, pushes the other ladder, taking out the other Authors of Pain member, and Gargano lands on the other ladder and takes down the other Authors of Pain member, which prompted Paul Ellering to get in the ring. He gets in the ring and saves the day in the end. But it was a good tease of saying it's like, oh, they're going to put the titles back on him. Or something in that sense. And again, they teased it right here at the end as well. But they meet with the Super Collider Powerbomb, and the Authors of Pain end out finishing the match. And finishing off the match, they're winning it, and overall, great match. This is just the whole snippet of everything at the end here, which was the heel turn, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that one in full because a lot of people have been feeling like if Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano didn't win this match, they were probably moving them up to main as a tag team. Or something in that sense. Or you had gone under the boat that you would probably expect Tommaso Ciampa to turn on Johnny Gargano at some point in time throughout this entire time that they've been a tag team. So you're sitting there, then they kind of both get up and everything, then the crowd's cheering, everything in that sense. So you're thinking that's kind of like their send-off. It's their send-off, they're going to main, everything in that sense, and they tease that all the way through. So, because a lot of times the heel turn would happen just in the ring. Or at the edge of the apron or something like that. We had seen that with like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn when they did that turn, when Kevin Owens first came in. But they had walked out of the ring, they showed another replay of everything, and then you have them up at the edge of the... Then you have them at the beginning of the entrance ramp, and and this is the good way of going about it. And I absolutely am glad that they went, like producers wise, went with this. They showed the graphic at the bottom of the screen that would usually happen like on the left hand side of the screen, making you feel like they were going to fade, just kind of basking in what had just happened, and thinking that okay, DIY is going to be probably going to main roster and they're going to be together and everything in that sense. And then lo and behold, Tommaso Ciampa says something while the graphics on the screen again. Says something to Johnny Gargano. You just kind of hear, as soon as he grabs his head, starts swinging him around to slam him into the LED boards for the entrance. You just hear a collective gasp from the crowd itself as soon as it started. It's like, oh crap, it's coming. And lo and behold, the just perfect heel turn for Tommaso Ciampa. Perfect way of going. I'm glad that's how they ended the show. Like I said, I thought it was a little bit weird initially that they were going to end the show with this ladder match. But with what they did here with Tommaso Ciampa's heel turn, was so well done. It's like, yeah, that needed to end the show right there, because he, like I said, they just teased it so well, perfectly well done, and Ciampa just beats the ever living crap out of Johnny Gargano. Eventually, like he nails him with a couple really good knees, and you also had a spot where he gets him up for what was essentially like the Celtic Cross or White Noise. What I know Sheamus calls it the White Noise, but I think Finlay called it the Celtic Cross. And he was standing on top of the announce table and then jumps off and does the move to Gargano through a couple sets of tables down below. Just really sick looking spot. And then Ciampa gets back up on the announce table and kind of just looks down. And I know his nickname had been Psycho Killer in the Indies, so I guess that's kind of what that's supposed to reminisce of. I don't absolutely know. I didn't see a lot of Ciampa's stuff inside of the independent scene, but it also reminisces back to that kind of look and feel that he had right after the Cruiserweight Classic match, when it seemed like, okay, this could be the turn for the two of them at this point, but they kind of just embrace when they both sit in the ring. So you just have Ciampa looking up there, like sitting on the announce table, just kind of looking at Johnny Gargano. And it kind of reminded me, it's like they had that spot where like Gargano was at the Cruiserweight Classic, Gargano was in the middle of the ring, just sitting, both of them, and then Ciampa, like it looked like Ciampa was kind of turning heel, wasn't accepting the handshake or anything like that, and then he came back and they kind of had an embrace to solidify the team there. And of course, this is the reverse of that, where he's just kind of basking in what he did at the end. Absolutely fantastic heel turn. I loved it. It was great. So, overall, great NXT TakeOver. This is probably one of the better ones. This is probably one of the better ones as of late. Like I said, I've yet to see an NXT TakeOver disappoint me, but this is definitely back on those levels of what we remember those NXT TakeOvers at for the longest time. So, with that being said, guys, I thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed everything, and have a great rest of your day.